It started with something so simple. Too simple, really. I was looking for a towel. That's it. One of the older ones, something I didn't mind using to wipe down the garage shelves. I went into the linen cabinet in the hallway closet, the one we hardly ever open unless we have guests staying over. It smelled faintly of lavender, and the top shelves were still stacked the way Morgan always kept them, tightly folded, color-coded, neat to a fault. Everything in its place. Except for one thing. Tucked behind a stack of extra pillowcases was a shirt I didn't recognize. Not mine, not hers. Just there, folded sloppily, like someone tried to make it blend in and failed. My first instinct wasn't suspicion. It was confusion. I pulled it out, unfolded it fully, and stared at it. It was a large, soft cotton work shirt, faded blue, worn in, and clearly broken in by someone else. Way too big for me. I'm 6 foot, lean, but this thing was baggy in a way that said the guy who wore it had shoulders like a linebacker or maybe worked construction. The logo on the chest said Raymond's Auto and Lube, East Side, in cracked red lettering. That stopped me. I read it again, just to be sure I wasn't imagining it. East Side. Now, here's the thing. Morgan and I live in a quiet neighborhood up near the North Hills. We have our routines. We shop at the same grocery store, the same yoga studio, the same vet for our dog. Everything's close by, familiar. The East Side. It might as well be another state. There's nothing there for us. No friends. No errands. No reason. She's even said that exact thing before. Ugh, I hate the East Side. It's always so sketchy. I turned the shirt over in my hands like it might offer an answer. Something written in the seams, something that said, "Oh, this is nothing, Mark. You're overthinking it." But that wasn't what I found. In the front chest pocket, crumpled like a forgotten receipt, was a torn slip of yellow paper. I unfolded it carefully. Someone had scrawled a phone number on it in black marker, right above the initials. RM. No name. No message. Just numbers and letters. That's it. Now I know what you're thinking. It could be anything, right? A donation drop-off mistake. A mix-up at the laundromat. Something harmless. And I wanted to believe that. I really did. But here's the problem with trying to ignore your gut. It doesn't ignore you back. I stared at that shirt for way too long. I felt like I was looking at a foreign object, like I'd just stumbled across something radioactive in my own home. Something that shouldn't be here. Something that had weight. History. Even if I didn't understand it yet. I walked into the living room, shirt in one hand, note in the other. Morgan was curled up in her usual spot, one leg tucked beneath her, scrolling through something on her phone. She didn't look up. "Hey," I said casually, trying to match her tone. "Do you know whose shirt this is?" She glanced at it. Barely. Like she already knew what I was holding. "Oh, that?" she said, voice light, too light. "I think it's from yoga class. One of the girls left it behind or something. I must have grabbed it by accident." Just like that. Practiced. Quick. I blinked. "You grabbed it." She shrugged. "We all change in the same locker room. Things get shuffled. It probably got tossed in my bag. Honestly, I forgot it was even there." "Raymond's Auto? East Side." She didn't miss a beat. "Yeah, I think one of the instructors said her boyfriend works there or something." That was it. No hesitation. No furrowed brow. No curious look at the shirt like it was news to her. Just a perfect, plausible story. Too perfect. That's what hit me. It wasn't the shirt. It wasn't even the number in the pocket. It was the way she answered. No pause. No laugh. No confusion. No, wait, what is that? Just a clean deflection, smooth and confident. She knew I'd ask. She was ready. I stood there for another few seconds, then nodded. Right. Must have been that. She smiled softly and went back to her phone like we were done. Like my chest wasn't in free fall. Like she hadn't just told me a lie wrapped in silk. I went back to the hallway and stood in front of the cabinet. I should have just walked away. Should have let it slide. But that paper, those initials, they felt like the beginning of something. And maybe I didn't want to know. Maybe part of me really didn't want to know. But I also couldn't pretend I hadn't seen it. I sat on the edge of the bed and Googled the number. Blocked. Private. Nothing came up. No matches, no names. Just an endless void. And I don't know if that made it better or worse. That night, I watched her sleep. She curled away from me, like always. It had become her habit over the past year, turning her back to me before drifting off. I used to think it was just comfort. But now, I wondered if it was instinct. Distance, not an asterisk Macy. The next morning, I checked the linen cabinet again. The shirt was gone. Just like that. I didn't ask her, didn't mention it, but I noticed, and I never forgot, because something inside me had shifted, not dramatically, not like a scene out of a movie, just quietly, like a loose tile clicking out of place. And once you hear that sound, once you feel it, you can't pretend the floor's not cracked anymore. It's strange how something so small, a piece of fabric, a few numbers, can rewire your whole sense of safety. Not just with the person you love, but with yourself. You start asking questions in silence. You start watching the way they speak. You start noticing what they don't say. And the scariest part? They don't have to admit anything. You already know. After the shirt, everything changed, not in some loud, dramatic way, but like background music shifting into a minor key. It was almost imperceptible at first, just a feeling that followed me through the house like a draft. The kind of chill that makes you check the windows even though they're shut. I couldn't stop thinking about the initials. RM. They sat in my brain like a splinter I couldn't dig out. And the way Morgan had explained it away, that bothered me more than the shirt itself. The speed of her answer. The casualness. I kept replaying it in my head, like a scene I'd missed something important in. It made me start questioning everything I used to brush off. The first thing that came to mind was her phone. Always on silent. Always face down. I had noticed that months ago, but I chalked it up to her being in focus mode, the way she liked to put it. But lately, it felt different. She'd flinch when it buzzed, slide it into her pocket like she was hiding something. And when I joked, anyone I know, she'd smile and say, just Tessa, or work stuff. Always vague, always uninteresting. I started watching her more closely, not in a creepy, obsessive way, but in that quiet, unsettled way you do when the person you love starts feeling like a stranger. She'd leave the room to answer calls, but never say who was calling. She started locking her phone, which she hadn't done in years. Not since the early days when we still believed in boundaries. Then there were the nights she stayed out late. Work events, networking mixers, client dinners. That was the explanation every time. She always came home tired but energized in this distant way, like she'd been somewhere that had refilled her in a way I couldn't anymore. I remember one night in particular. It was raining, and I had made dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad, but I thought it might be a nice surprise. She texted at the last minute. Running late, something came up. Eat without me. No sorry. No emoji. No warmth. When she finally got home, it was after 11. Her hair was damp, her cheeks pink from the cold. She looked lit up. Her coat smelled faintly like cologne, not her perfume, not mine, but something sharper, spicier. I noticed it immediately. You smell like someone else's date. I joked, half laughing. She blinked. What? Your coat. Cologne. Oh. She gave a quick smile, brushing her hair back. That must be from the client dinner. I sat next to a guy who wore way too much. She laughed a little, but it didn't feel real. I wanted to gag. She changed out of her clothes almost immediately and tossed everything into the laundry, even the coat. That night, she barely spoke to me. She stared at the TV without watching, phone in her hand the whole time. I went to bed before her. When I woke up, she was already downstairs, dressed, ready to go. Like she'd never been there at all. And there were the weekends. That used to be our time. Saturday mornings in bed. Coffee, lazy breakfasts, long walks with Leo, our shepherd mix. But now, she started going on these solo retreats. A term she used like it was some kind of official therapy. I need to unplug, she told me one Friday. No phone, no work, no distractions. Just quiet. Just me. I didn't argue. I wanted to respect that space. Everyone needs a little solitude now and then. But the more she did it, the more it felt like she wasn't coming back refreshed. She was coming back edited. Distant. Her hugs became one-armed. Her kisses landed somewhere near my cheek. I remember watching her pack once. She threw in 3 books, a yoga mat, essential oils, and this new lace bralette I'd never seen before. Planning to impress the trees? I asked, half kidding. She smiled, not looking at me. It's just comfortable. It was always just a work thing. Just a girl's night. Just tired. Just need some air. I began scrolling back through our photos one night, needing to remind myself that this was real, that we had been something once. But something was off there, too. I checked her Instagram. Our anniversary post from 2 years ago, gone. That trip to Monterey, gone. Every photo of the two of us, deleted, untagged, vanished like we'd never happened. In their place, Landscape sh*ts, food pics, selfies at the gym, quotes about independence and growth. I tried to bring it up gently. Hey, did you clear your Instagram? I noticed some of our stuff was gone. She barely looked up from her laptop. Oh yeah, I just did a cleanup. Needed a refresh. Why delete us? She paused, then smiled. It's not like that. I just wanted to focus on my own stuff. You know, stop performing my life for other people. That word stuck with me, performing. The more I looked at her, the more I saw someone in a role. Someone who smiled when she had to, laughed at the right moments, kissed me goodnight like it was a line from a script. We'd lie in bed, and I'd reach for her under the sheets. Her body would tense, just slightly, but enough to make me pull away. She'd turn over and say, I'm tired, even if she'd been scrolling through TikTok for an hour. Sometimes she'd be asleep before I even turned off the light, like she was racing to get there first. One morning, I leaned in to kiss her forehead, and she flinched. Not dramatically, just a reflex. That was the moment. That tiny, barely there twitch. That's when I knew. She didn't love me anymore. Or maybe she did, in some residual, grateful kind of way. But not in the way you want to be loved. Not in the way that says, I see you, or I choose you. That kind of love had left the room a long time ago. I just hadn't noticed until now. And here's the part one hate admitting. I let it happen. I let myself believe that distance was normal. That this was just what marriage became. That disconnection was a phase. I stopped asking questions. I stopped reaching out. Because the more I reached, the more she pulled away. And I couldn't stand the feeling of being refused by the person I'd once built my world around. So I made peace with scraps. A quick kiss goodbye. A text during the day. A shared joke about her dog. I let that be enough. Until it wasn't. Until that shirt showed up. Until a name, or rather, initials, landed in our laundry like a ghost. It's strange how the human brain works. Once you allow yourself to see the cracks, they're everywhere. Like your whole life is one of those illusion paintings, and suddenly the image shifts. You're no longer in the scene you thought you were. The angles are all wrong. The truth was there all along. You just weren't ready to see it. Now I saw it. Every misconnection. Every excuse. Every smile that didn't reach her eyes. Every touch that felt like a flinch. And it wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was certainty. There's a kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It doesn't soothe or calm. It hums in the background like a distant generator. Low, constant, vaguely threatening. That was the kind of silence I lived in after the shirt. After the lies. After the red flags I could no longer explain away. But I hadn't said anything to Morgan. Not directly. Not yet. I carried it around like a second skin. This quiet, vibrating tension. I watched her with new eyes. Every word she said. Every glance at her phone. Every time she touched her hair when she was nervous. It all felt like a clue. But I still didn't have anything concrete. And maybe that's why I didn't confront her. Maybe I needed her to lie to me again so I could stop feeling crazy for not trusting her. It wasn't confrontation I needed. It was confirmation. And I got it, just not from her. Tessa, Morgan's younger sister, was staying with us for a few weeks while her apartment was being renovated. She was 10 years younger than Morgan, full of sharp opinions, always dressed like she'd just walked off a fashion blog. She talked fast, cursed a lot, and had this way of telling you the truth before you were ready to hear it. I liked her. Always had. She was honest in a way Morgan had never been. The first few days she was with us, the house felt more alive. She filled the silence with stories, jokes, playlists that played too loud through the kitchen speaker. Morgan seemed more animated around her, less guarded. Like the presence of someone from her past made her momentarily forget the performance she'd been keeping up. One night, Morgan had gone out to meet a friend for dinner. At least, that's what she told me. She left in a fitted black dress I'd never seen before, said she was running late, kissed me on the cheek without looking me in the eye. Tessa and I were left alone with pizza and a bottle of wine she insisted on opening just because. We talked about everything and nothing, her job, her apartment, how ridiculous online dating was. She made me laugh, and for a brief moment, it felt like the house wasn't haunted by secrets. I didn't expect anything to happen that night. I wasn't digging for answers. I wasn't interrogating her. But maybe the truth was just waiting for a crack to slip through. We were in the middle of talking about her ex, some guy who ghosted her after 2 months, when she suddenly said, God, I swear, every time I get close to someone, I detach. It's like Morgan, you know? I blinked. What do you mean? She waved her hand casually. It's our thing, I guess. Emotional escape artists. Morgan's been doing it since college. The moment someone new shows up, poof, she shuts down emotionally. Like clockwork. She took a sip of wine, completely unaware of the landmine she'd just stepped on. I tried to keep my voice steady. Someone new. Tessa didn't look up from her glass. Yeah, from the gym, I think. She's been seeing him for a while now. I figured you already knew. She talks about him all the time when you're not around. I froze. She kept talking, not realizing I'd stopped breathing. I mean, not like talking. Just mentions him. Says he's funny, confident. You know, charming in that oh he knows he's hot kind of way. I didn't say anything. My throat felt like it was closing. Finally, she glanced over and saw my face. Wait, Mark, you did know, right? I didn't even blink. No, I didn't. Her smile vanished. *T. She put the wine down slowly, like it was suddenly too heavy. I thought, she said. I just assumed. Her voice faltered for the first time since she moved in. Mark, I'm so sorry. I thought you were cool with it. I didn't mean. I held up a hand. It's okay. You didn't know? But it wasn't okay. Not even close. Because in a single, casual sentence, Tessa had confirmed everything I'd been trying not to believe. All the late nights. The phone flipped over. The gym trips that lasted 3 hours. The way she started dressing differently. Smiling differently. Sleeping differently. All of it. Suddenly, it had a name. Not just a suspicion, not just a feeling. A person. I don't know how long I sat there after that. Tessa kept saying things, apologies, I think, but I didn't hear any of them. My brain was replaying the past 6 months in fast forward. Everything I thought was benign suddenly had new meaning. Every excuse was a rerun of a lie I didn't catch the first time. Eventually, I stood up. I'm gonna head to bed. Mark, she started. Thanks for telling me, I said. And I meant it. She hadn't meant to drop the truth on me, but I was grateful. Because the worst kind of betrayal isn't the one that explodes your life. It's the one that rewrites your memories. It's the lie that reshapes every moment into something sinister. I climbed the stairs alone. I brushed my teeth like it mattered. I changed into sleep clothes like I might sleep. But I didn't. I lay there in the dark, hearing the front door open around 11:45 p.m. Her heels clicked against the tile. I heard the fridge open, the soft clink of a glass. She didn't come upstairs. Probably didn't want to wake me. I wondered if she looked at me the way I looked at her now, like a stranger occupying familiar space. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee. She was in the kitchen, hair still tousled from sleep, humming some song under her breath like everything was fine. I sat across from her, nodding at the toast she offered me. I looked at her like I hadn't seen her before. Because in a way, I hadn't. That was the morning I realized. I didn't need proof anymore. I didn't need *TS or text messages or a confrontation that ended with her crying and me shouting. I had heard the truth, and that was enough. What came next wasn't rage. It was something colder, quieter. I watched her stir her coffee with the spoon she always used. I watched her look at her phone, then flip it face down. I saw her body lean ever so slightly away from mine, and I felt myself let go, just a little. Not because I wanted to, but because holding on started to feel like lying to myself. Later that day, I found the shirt again, folded neatly in the laundry basket, still damp from the wash. It wasn't gone like I thought, just hidden, like so many things. I held it for a long time before stuffing it deep into the trash bag under the sink. And that night, when she said, "I love you," before turning off the light, I didn't respond. Not out of spite, not out of anger, but because I realized I didn't believe her. Not anymore. After that night, things didn't explode, they just unraveled quietly. No fights, no accusations, no screaming matches that woke up the neighbors. That's the thing about betrayal when it's been stretched over months. It doesn't arrive like a crash. It seeps in like water through the ceiling. And when you finally look up, the damage is already done. I didn't ask Morgan about the man from the gym. I didn't say a word to Tessa, either. The truth had already been spoken, and I didn't need to chase after more of it. Something inside me had changed. Some final hinge broke loose in a door I didn't even realize I'd been holding shut. I started looking at the house differently, not in some metaphorical, dreamy sense. Literally, I started noticing things that didn't feel like mine anymore. The living room? That was hers. The throw pillows I never picked out. The earthy candles she liked to light even though they gave me headaches. The stack of unread coffee table books with titles like Living Intentionally or Breathe, You're Doing Fine. Her energy was everywhere, but none of it felt like it was meant for me. Even the bedroom started feeling curated. Cold. She had rearranged the furniture a few weeks ago, claiming she wanted better light in the mornings. But now I realized the new arrangement kept our nightstands farther apart. Our chargers no longer tangled together. Our socks didn't mix in the laundry anymore. Even her toothbrush had migrated to the far end of the sink. I hadn't noticed until now how much distance she had already created. One evening, I stood in our closet and stared at the clothes she never wore around me. Tight dresses, plunging necklines, unfamiliar jackets with tags I didn't remember seeing. I reached out and touched the sleeve of one of them. It was still warm from a recent wear. I didn't feel jealous. Not even angry. Just hollow. I looked at my side of the closet. It was smaller than hers. Tidier. My shirts lined up like soldiers, all in muted tones. Nothing had changed there in years. It hit me then. I hadn't evolved. I hadn't been choosing anything lately. Not clothes, not meals, not plans. I was just existing beside her, like a decorative statue someone forgot to dust. The more I saw, the more the house revealed itself to me, not as a home, but as a carefully constructed set. Like we were actors playing out a version of marriage that had long since ended. She smiled in all the right places. She laughed at my jokes when other people were around. But when the curtains closed and the audience left, she turned back into someone I didn't recognize. Her affection came in microdoses, small, manageable gestures that said just enough to keep me from asking questions. A hand on my shoulder when I was doing dishes. A kiss on the cheek before work. An "I love you" tossed over her shoulder as she left for another yoga class or coffee run or solo retreat. But none of it landed. None of it felt like a choice. That was the part that hurt the most. I think when you've loved someone for a long time, you start to believe that love is a guarantee. Like a contract that renews itself every morning. But the truth is, love expires quietly when it stops being nourished. And I'd been feeding it alone for far too long. Morgan, for her part, never noticed the change in me. Or if she did, she didn't say anything. She went on as if nothing had shifted, but her body language betrayed her. When we sat on the couch, she angled her knees away from me. When I walked into the room, she'd finish her text quickly and lock her screen. When we hugged, her arms pressed against my chest like she was bracing for something. Even our dog, Leo, seemed to feel it. He used to jump into bed with both of us, sprawling out like he owned the place. Now, he stayed curled by my side of the mattress, casting wary glances toward her as if waiting for permission to relax. I stopped bringing up memories. Stopped referencing trips we took or inside jokes we used to laugh at. I didn't want to hear her respond with that polite, distant smile that people use when they don't remember the story but want to pretend they do. That smile broke me more than any argument ever could. One Saturday morning, I caught her on the back patio, whispering into her phone. Her voice was soft, almost playful. She smiled at something, then said, "I'll text you later." When she came inside and saw me, she jumped slightly. "Oh, hey," she said, tucking her phone into her pocket. "Didn't see you there." She kissed my cheek like nothing happened. That night, I slept on the far edge of the bed. She didn't notice, or if she did, she didn't care. The emotional absence was so complete, I started to wonder if I was imagining the whole thing. But then I'd catch a flicker of something, her eyes lighting up when a message popped onto her screen, or the way she changed shirts 3 times before going out, only to return smelling like a cologne I didn't own. I remember opening the drawer one night and finding a receipt tucked between her books. A dinner for 2. Italian place downtown. I hadn't been there in over a year. The date was a Tuesday, the night she said she had book club. I stared at the receipt like it was written in another language. It didn't hurt, exactly. It just confirmed what I already knew. This wasn't my home anymore. I was a guest in someone else's narrative. I'd been edited out of the real story and placed into the margins. One night, I sat at the kitchen table after she'd gone to bed. The house was dark, save for the dim light above the stove. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, not something I normally did, but it felt right. I stared out the window, watching nothing in particular. And for the first time, I thought, I don't think she's coming back. Not physically, she'd be home tomorrow. She'd still wear my last name. She'd still pour coffee into the mug I got her for our anniversary. But the part of her that had once looked at me with hunger, with trust, with something warm and rooted, That part was gone. I didn't cry. I didn't punch a wall. I just sat there, letting the quiet hold me. This was grief, but not the kind that comes after a loss. It was the kind that comes when you realize the loss already happened and no one told you. The collapse didn't look like what I thought it would. No screaming matches. No suitcase thrown out on the lawn. No teary confessions or explosive goodbyes. It was slower than that. Quieter. Like watching the tide pull away from the shore inch by inch, until one day, you realized the ocean just wasn't coming back. She knew. I could tell. Morgan wasn't stupid. She felt the shift in me just as much as I felt it in her. But she never asked the obvious question, not because she didn't care, but because she didn't want to open a door she couldn't close. That's how we lived, those final weeks. In avoidance. In practiced silence. She'd pour her coffee in the mornings without looking at me. I'd come home later than usual from work, and she'd already be upstairs. No fights. No accusations. Just a mutual, unspoken agreement to let the air between us grow thicker. The strangest part? That distance didn't feel painful anymore. It had at first. God, it had. I used to lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember the last time she touched me without obligation. The last time I made her laugh from somewhere real. I used to ache for her. For closeness. For the version of her I married. But now, the ache had faded into something dull. Something manageable. I stopped checking her phone. I stopped wondering where she really was on Thursday nights. I stopped asking if she wanted to go for a walk, or if she wanted to cook dinner together, or if she was okay. Because I already knew the answer. She wasn't here. Not really. And neither was I. I'd sit at the kitchen table some nights after work, just sipping coffee or staring at my laptop without touching it. She'd be in the living room, earbuds in, scrolling through her phone or watching videos with that blank smile people wear when they're just *ling time. Sometimes I'd glance over and wonder who she was texting, who she was thinking about, if she thought about me at all. I stopped waiting for her to notice I was hurting. And when I let go of that hope, something inside me settled. Not peace exactly, but something close to resignation. That's when the guilt started to slip from her, like it had served its purpose and was no longer needed. She didn't try to hide the distance anymore. Didn't fake warmth the way she used to. Her smiles became rarer, but more genuine, just not with me. She'd hum to herself while getting ready, sometimes even dancing a little in front of the mirror. She started wearing her hair differently, wavy, looser, like the version of her from years ago had returned. Her makeup routine changed too. Less about practicality, more about allure. She started choosing lipsticks again. I noticed a new one in the bathroom drawer, deep red, bold, nothing like her usual neutrals. She hadn't worn red in years. I started coming home to more empty rooms. Her coat would be gone. The lights dimmed. Leo curled at the front door like he didn't know who to wait for anymore. Some nights she'd send a text, running late, or don't wait up, but most nights she didn't bother. And I didn't ask. I'd already said my goodbyes. Not out loud, not to her face. But internally, I had already started moving out of the marriage in pieces. It's funny, the things you stop doing when you know it's over. I stopped refilling the Brita. Stopped fluffing the couch pillows. Stopped replacing the hand soap in the guest bathroom. Stopped pretending we had guests. One night, I came home to find 2 wine glasses in the sink. She was in the shower. I could hear the water running, smell the lavender body wash she only used when she had company. I didn't ask who had been there. Didn't ask why the lights were dimmed or why there was a faint trace of cologne in the hallway. Instead, I went to bed. Not because I didn't care, but because I'd finally learned to stop begging for an explanation from someone who'd already made up their mind. She still said, "I love you" occasionally. Not often, and never when it mattered. It was usually at the end of a conversation, like punctuation. Or habit. Like she was saying bye to a coworker at the end of a Zoom call. And I'd say it back sometimes. Not because I meant it, but because I was afraid of what silence might reveal. Then one Friday evening, she left for another work weekend. She didn't give details, just said she had to leave early, and that she'd be back late Sunday. I nodded. She asked if I needed anything before she left. I shook my head. She kissed my cheek. "See you soon," she said. She smiled. And I believed, for the first time, that she actually meant that part. Not because she was coming home to me, but because she no longer needed to lie. The performance was over. She was no longer hiding. I was no longer asking. We were 2 people who had decided to live in the same house out of habit, not love. After she left, I sat on the porch for a long time. The air was cool, the sky streaked with fading light. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I felt still. Later that night, I called my brother. We hadn't talked in a while. He lived 2 towns over with his wife and kids. He picked up on the third ring. "Mark?" he said, voice uncertain. "Hey," I said. "Mind if I crash with you this weekend?" He didn't ask questions. Just said, "Of course. Come by any time." I packed a bag with only the essentials. No drama. No theatrics. Just enough to get by. A toothbrush. A change of clothes. My laptop. Leo's leash. I wrote a note that simply said, "Took the weekend for myself. Don't worry about me." That was all she got. That was all I had left to give. When I got to my brother's place, his kids were playing in the yard. His wife greeted me with a hug and a quiet, knowing look. They didn't pry. They offered a guest room and a beer and a night of normalcy I didn't know I needed. That weekend, I slept better than I had in months. Not because I was away from her, but because I was closer to myself than I'd been in a long time. When I returned Sunday night, the house was quiet. She wasn't back yet, but something felt different. I walked upstairs. In the bedroom, the bedsheets were rumpled. 2 wine glasses sat on the nightstand, one with a lipstick mark on the rim. There was a faint trace of perfume in the air, sweet, unfamiliar. Not hers, or at least, not the one I'd known. On the bathroom mirror, someone had wiped away condensation with a towel. I could see the drag marks from the cloth. I imagined her doing it in a hurry, maybe laughing at something someone said behind her. I didn't say anything when she got home. I didn't ask where she had been, or why she hadn't checked in, or whose laugh echoed through the scent in our sheets. Because I didn't need to know anymore. This wasn't a betrayal. This was confirmation. I stood in that house, our house, and realized it wasn't mine anymore. I had become an extra in her life. A placeholder. A name on a lease. And now, I was ready to let go.